Welcome back to the Humble Marksman channel, the only gun channel on the internet that's dripping with that BDE. That's right, Big Dad Energy. What's the difference between a well-dressed man on a unicycle and a poorly dressed man on a bicycle? Attire. Think about it, you lit nerds. So I'm David, and this is the Arex Zero Tactical Compact, or we're just gonna call it the TC for short, because that is a mouthful. So about 7 years ago, when I was mostly watching YouTube videos and making really terrible ones, the Military Arms channel was doing his series of the gauntlet testing, where he was taking pistols and dunking them in Tupperwares full of sand and muck and whatever, and it was really cool to me to see guns that would run in that environment and guns that would choke. And one of the pistols that got my attention during that process was the Arex Zero. Now, this pistol kept running when even Glocks and M&Ps would choke. Out of the original batch of pistols he tested, this was the clear winner for reliability. So I was like, those pistols look really cool. I'm gonna keep an eye out for them. And then I never saw them in stock at any of the gun stores that I happen to go to. Fast forward to now, and I've kind of rekindled my love with double action pistols recently with the SIG Sauer P226 Legion, and I thought, what other double action guns are there out there that have red dot cuts from the factory? And then looking around, CZ didn't have any. They just have the Shadow 2, which isn't a great gun for concealed carry. But Arex came to mind, and I looked, and they have the TC here that does accept red dots. Now, one of the hesitations that anybody has when they're buying kind of an exotic, when I mean like not readily off the shelf available type pistol, is that you're buying into an ecosystem where you have a hard time finding parts. Now, the importer on these pistols is Global Ordnance, and Global Ordnance has a web store that's set up with like all that kind of stuff, and they've got all the magazines in stock. So magazines for this sucker are only $30, and they're a robust web store, so there is plenty of support for these pistols, at least as far as they're concerned. Now, with full transparency, this pistol was provided by Global Ordnance for video. I have to tell you guys that for FCC and just honesty's sake, but it does guarantee that a video gets made. It doesn't necessarily guarantee that my opinion of the pistol is pretty high. But luckily for this pistol, they got the formula mostly right. Like, Military Arms channel wasn't blowing smoke 7 years ago when he said this pistol was great, because it is a pretty great pistol, but let me tell you more about it. So in the third quarter of 2023, right at the beginning as I'm filming this, these are retailing for about $870. This is the compact version. There is a full-size version as well. It comes with 2 magazines that hold 15 or 17 9mm pills. 17 round magazine does have a grip sleeve to give more of a full-size grip to the pistol. As it sits right now, my finger without the magazine base pad doesn't quite have a home on it, but with the magazine inserted, it's not a problem. While this looks very much like a 226, it's not exactly the same. There's a couple key areas in where this is different. This does not fit 226 holsters. The trigger guard is just a little bit too deep. It has a very large trigger guard. You cannot share 226 magazines with this because it has a true ambi mag release. You can press it from the right hand side of the pistol. So since it's ambi, the 226 mags don't work. And the other key difference is that it is not only a double single pistol, but it has a safety as well that is fully ambidextrous. The other cool thing about it is that the decocker that sits right there also works as a slide stop. So there it is, there's the gun locked open with that, and if I press down on this, we can drop the slide back into battery. Now that said, the slide release isn't the most reliable way to get the slide back into battery, almost like it wasn't designed for that. Since this was designed for military applications, I would suspect that the way to get it back into battery is the traditional slingshot way, so it wasn't really contemplated, but it does work very well as a slide stop, not so much as a slide release. Given the location of the decocker on the pistol, it's not exactly great for emergency reloads, so slingshotting is going to be the way to go. But as a decocker, it functions really, really well. It's a short throw, so as soon as you basically touch it, it drops the hammer, whereas a SIG, you have to run it all the way down to the bottom of the stroke for it to drop the hammer. Now let's talk about the trigger pull. This is one area where it definitely seems like a contract that was put out, a number of years ago, where they're like, we want a really heavy double action pull, and that's what they got. My trigger pull scale maxes out at 12 pounds. Double action on this pistol is somewhere north of 12 pounds. That said, when you're rowing straight through the trigger, it's actually not that bad, but if you try and stage it or whatever, you're gonna feel all the hitches and starts that are on double action triggers. Strong hand only double action wasn't a big problem for me. I was able to shoot at 15 yards, no problem with it. Switching over to support hand, the double action shot is a bit harder. Inside 15 yards, I had no problems, but outside 15 is where the wheels started coming off. The trigger is absolutely usable in double action. The single action throw, and I'll just show it to you guys there, it's got a very firm wall. There's a little tiny bit of creep, and then there's a decent amount of over travel. The slide runs, and then the reset's a little bit long. It's long relative to its peers, but it's a very shootable trigger. Now let's talk about the shooting impressions of the gun. This is a 30-ounce aluminum framed gun, and as a result, it's really nice to shoot. It is a high bore axis gun. Most hammer fire guns are considered high bore axis, and while that means the gun is going to rotate more in recoil, it also means that they're nicer to shoot. Weighing 30 ounces, there is enough heft where when you're trying to shoot accurately, there's enough weight there to steady, but at the same time, it's still in that ballpark to carry. So shooting the gun is about like you'd expect. There's a lot of rotation and it snaps back the target very nicely. When running the gun fast, you can do it. The trigger reset is a little bit long. There weren't any shots at the range that I attempted to take with this pistol that I couldn't connect on, especially with the optic being mounted on the top. Now, let's talk about the features that you get on this real quickly, because for about $870, which is what these are selling for in the third quarter of 2023, it comes with co-witness iron sights, which is a feature that's not present on any of the other hammer-fired guns, not at just this price, basically at any price. It comes with 4 optics plates out of the box that accommodates a whole host of popular optic footprints. You've got a threaded barrel, which you can do, I don't know, whatever you want to do with a threaded barrel for, but the nice thing about it is it's giving you an extra ½ inch, so while the profile of the slide is about a 4-inch slide profile, you get that extra 0.6, 0.7 inches for full velocity of a service gun. As far as how the gun is set up, as far as machining is concerned, the slide gets kind of narrow up top right there, and as a result, it makes it a little bit harder for the front serrations to be very usable. They're not quite as aggressive as what I prefer, but I mean, I don't have any problems with them. The rear ones aren't super aggressive, but they are usable as well. The grip panels are plastic. They're hard polymer with a little bit of checkering down low. As a result, the critical part where the hand makes contact with the frame for recoil management, there's not really any good texture there to provide traction, but the geometry of the grip is so squared away that you can absolutely get your support hand in on recoil management, which is what you want from the things. So if I had 2 criticisms of the gun, it would be that the grips are kind of slick and the trigger is a little bit unrefined. But that said, just because I know some of you guys are going to have these and you're going to make comments, I'll go ahead and say it. I was in the Pacific Northwest recently, met up with Graham Bates from the GB Guns YouTube channel, and I got to shoot his Arex Zero 2, which comes with amazing grips and has a much more refined trigger. That said, the Zero 2 is not available in an optic ready format. I'm sure they'll get there eventually, but at the same time, the gripes I have about this pistol wouldn't keep me away from it. It's actually a really good pistol. Now, on the living with it side, it's easy to get magazines, but holster support is a different thing. A&R, Kydex, they do good holsters as well. They're currently supporting this. They don't make a TC version, but they do make a tactical version, which accepts the TC. So I just want to show you how this gun carries, because it's actually a really comfortable carry gun, only weighing about 30 ounces before the magazine. And I'm just going to show you, it's 109 heat index today in Texas, so shorts. Here we go. All right, you can see right there that the printing honestly isn't so bad despite wearing a light t-shirt. Like, it's there, but it's not too bad. And it's, doing a pretty good job of being a concealable gun in super duper lightweight summer gear. So it's actually a pretty good carry gun. Reliability was great. I didn't have any issues. I mostly was shooting Bellam 124 grain ammunition and it went off like a charm. Tried a couple other different range loads as well. No issues. Feeds hollow points, all the stuff you'd want. So it's pretty squared away. Now, if you'd like to see a comparison between this, the 226 Legion, and the Beretta M9A4, which is kind of the closest analog to this, be sure and subscribe. I've already filmed the range portion of that video, so that video will be coming soon. If you've got any other questions, please sound off in the comments and I'll see what I can do for you. I appreciate you guys, and I'll catch you on the next one.